I'm showing you the one detail package that will immediately make you more money just by offering it, even if no customer actually buys it. What's going on, guys? Luke here with Wilson Auto Detailing and Autodetailer.com. The exterior detail you see me performing on this white Audi in the studio is what I call a signature detail. And a signature detail, as I define it, is nothing more than a detail that sits really obviously outside of your core service offering because it's significantly more expensive. You can have a signature detail for just interiors, just exteriors, or a complete signature detail. But essentially, this is a high-ticket service, or relatively high-ticket service, that is not paint correction or ceramic coatings. Now, before I deep dive on the business side of why I do this and how you can do it, I want to share with you exactly what I'm doing. The first service offering that I want to highlight here that's being offered in addition to what I would call my core service offering for the exterior here is trim conditioner. So this is where I take this basic rubber trim conditioner and I apply it to all of the rubber seals around the windows. I'll even apply it to door jambs when necessary, but any exterior rubber gets this conditioner that sits there. I let it dry for about 10 minutes. Then I come in and I level it. Again, this would be an example in terms of the overall stack of services. This specific service is simply an example of that extra detail, the extra measure, long-term protection, conditioning exterior rubber. The second service in the stack is what I would just call general exterior long-term protection. I'll hook up some of my favorite longer-term protection spray products in the YouTube description box below, but that's what I'm applying here to the exterior. So it's not just your classic sealant or your classic wax or your classic SiO2 product. This is a product that is going to sit outside of, again, what I would normally apply, a little bit more difficult to apply, but also more of a 6 to 8 month protection if the car sits outside, more of a 12-month protection if it sits inside. The third service is black trim restoration and protection. In this case, more black trim protection. So I'm applying Cerakote Trim Restorer to all of the black trim on the front and the back that really needs it or is a porous version of black trim that can take a product like this. And essentially, this is long-term ceramic protection for the black trim. And again, you have to be kind of tedious in how you apply it because on this Audi, the black trim is real tedious, but this is a version of long-term protection, again, additional service in the stack that wouldn't be normally included in my core offering. In addition to that, I'm taking a simple spray protection and applying it to all of the front grille area that can't necessarily take a product like the Cerakote Trim Restorer because of the type of material it is. And this is gonna apply some sort of protection to that front grille area as well as even out the overall appearance of it because this area tends to get water spots no matter what kind of water you use, and it just gets degraded over time. So spraying something on top and letting it sit, dry, ultimately protect and provide a sacrificial barrier, but also it applies this really great visual uniform appearance. So again, all of that together, I would call it black trim protection, black trim restoration, long-term black trim ceramic protection. This is, again, another service inside of the overall stack. Fourthly, I'm including an engine bay detail in this signature package because, again, this is just a version of what I would call like continued access or additional access to more detailing services because you're paying for a signature package. So generally speaking, something like black trim restoration or protection or something like an engine bay detail is something that sits either as an additional add-on to a core service or it's something that people can pay for in an isolated instance. But in this case, because it's the signature package, I'm including it. I simply spray, scrub, wash very carefully with my pressure washer. I avoid any obviously exposed electrical area, and then I dress the engine with a multi-purpose dressing. Next, I'm moving to exhaust tip cleaning. And this is not necessarily something you can do with all vehicles because not all vehicles have these really obviously polished chrome metal exposed exhaust tips. And these aren't necessarily even exposed, but you guys can see the difference between the before and after of the exhaust tip polishing. I'm just using, by the way, no real polish, and I'm doing this relatively quickly, but it's just 4/0 steel wool. It's a really easy way to remove that surface layer of soot, essentially, and that residue, and you bring back that really, really awesome exposed chrome such that if the customer does see it, it just looks really, really, really clean. Another example of just a really small service is cleaning inside the gas cap and then dressing inside the gas cap. This might be something that you do include in your core service, but it's something with a signature package. I like to come in with a multi-purpose dressing after I've done it so that all of that black stands out and it looks like that black trim even inside of that gas hood has been restored, okay? So it's something that you really see very obviously the next time the customer goes to the gas station, pops it open, and unscrews it, okay? Again, just a version of another thing inside of the overall stack of a signature package that separates it as a much higher end service and therefore much more expensive than the core offering. Now, the second to last service I'm highlighting here is a ceramic protection on the windshield. And in a signature package, you could include it in even all of the glass, but in my signature package in this case, I'm just doing the front windshield. So again, this is just a version of long-term protection, ceramic protection, traditional glass ceramic on the windshield such that when it rains, the customer is going to see it start to blow off the windshield. Again, it's just a very simple way of saying here's another concrete long-term value add service that's included in this overall stack, and it's very easy for me to apply and do. And finally, in this case, we're doing some small scratch and small transfer transfer removal. Now, I want to highlight the fact that this really is only something that I would include in a signature package when you're dealing with an Audi like this that is actually relatively well kept, and it's white and therefore shows the exposed transfer or scratches in an isolated way really obviously. So what I would contrast this with is this would not necessarily be a service I would include if I'm dealing with a daily driver that sits outside that's riddled with swirls and scratches, because you can't isolate certain scratches that really stand out and are obvious in a scenario like that, in which case you're going to be doing this full paint correction. So I'm picking very specific pieces of transfer and scratches that I know I can pull off really easily, and I can do it in a relatively quick period of time, but it's one of those low cost, high value, high impact parts of my signature package in that I'm going after these targeted scratches and removing these imperfections. So I call this part of my signature package some level of cosmetic car care. Now I'm going to link up below in the YouTube description box the specific products and tools that I used if you're interested, but I want to move to the business conversation of why I always suggest offering a signature package. And I want to start with explaining why I don't offer basic packages, and generally speaking, never suggest detailers to do this. Why is it that most detailers offer a basic package? So they have their core offering, which is kind of like interior, exterior, or complete detail, and then they immediately say, but here's our basic version of our core services. The reason for this is because in the beginning to kind of intermediate stages of your business, most detailers are really just trying to avoid having any sort of price objection on the phone. And so they think the easiest way to avoid a price objection is to simply offer a lower price service, such that when somebody says, hey, I don't want your core service because it's too expensive, I can just say, oh, well, here's the basic version and it's $100 less. Here's the issue with that. Number one, anytime you offer a basic package and it's public facing on your website, most people, especially in the beginning stages, are just going to default to that because they're probably just price shopping. Secondly, if you offer a basic package for the reason I just described, you never actually learn how to deal with the objection of that's too expensive on the phone, which is, by the way, generally not even about the price. It's just about the fact that you don't really know how to have that conversation with a customer. And thirdly, your core service offering is what you want to be the flagship thing you're offering anyways. It's your core service, and it should be a high margin service, especially in the beginning stages. And so if you're shaving that down, specifically on price, and still having to deal with nasty vehicles, but bringing this basic package, quote unquote, into it, you're still going to be spending a significant amount of time, and you're going to be making less margin. It's very rare that any basic package actually makes even equal or especially not more margin than your core service offering. So what does a signature package do? Let's eliminate the basic package and only offer the significantly more expensive signature package, and let's put some numbers to it. Let's pretend like our core offering sits around $250 for just a basic complete detail. That's our flagship service. But then you stack on all of the services that I just showed you in this video to create your signature package, and the signature package sits at $550. Now all of a sudden, you've more than doubled your core service offering price for this thing that sits out here, such that when a customer is perusing price potentially on your website, rather than anchoring your core offering to this less expensive thing over here that you're showing public facing as your basic package, they're anchoring your core service prices against this signature price that is more than double the price, again, such that having the conversation about the price regarding your core services becomes easier because you've set a price anchor out here rather than out here, pulling people's price perspective down. We want to always be pulling it up. So offering a signature package actually creates a price anchor that makes it much easier to deal with the price objections over the phone that you're going to have to learn how to deal with anyways, and it also lowers the chances that it's actually going to happen in the first place. Whereas offering a basic package only stands to increase the amount of objections you are going to get to your core service offering prices, especially in the beginning stages. Now, the second reason, and this is so simple it's going to sound dumb, that you have to have a signature package is because if a super expensive detail does not exist in your service offering, no one can actually choose to pay you for it. Now, here's the great thing that you may not have noticed about the 8 services I highlighted in the beginning of this video that actually make up the additional services that cause me to call this package a signature package. Each one of those additions is what I call low cost, high impact, or low time, high impact. Things like targeted scratch removal, black trim restoration, gas cap cleaning and dressing, chrome tip polishing, engine bay detail, windshield ceramic coating. All of these things in isolation take very little time, and when stacked on top of each other, they add maybe about an hour and a half to somewhere around 2.5 hours to the detail, depending on the vehicle. And yet, I'm able to charge more than the entire price of the core offering for those additional services because it's packaged in a signature detail way. So now all of a sudden, through my signature package, I'm able to add, let's call it 2 hours to make it round, to the detail, but make more in those 2 hours than the entire cost of my core flagship service. So this is the power of, number one, creating a signature detail, and secondly, presenting it with the offer stack that I just described. And if it doesn't exist, no one can buy it from you. So number one, you have the option to upsell people to it, but number two, there is a certain percentage of your customer base that is going to see that that exists, and just because it exists and they like to spend more money on their vehicle, they're going to immediately want to pay you for it. But again, if it doesn't exist, nobody can take it. Just by creating it, you're going to take 5%, 10% of your customer base and put people into it simply because they're asking for it when they see it, because they want a way to give you more money, but you don't have a way to let them give you more money yet. And a signature package is the easiest way to do it. And honestly, the highest risk-adjusted return on your time as a detailer if you're not yet doing paint correction and ceramic coatings, because it's not a total diversion from your core service offering, but rather it's building out a bit of a value stack on the core offering. The third reason why you must create a signature package rather than your basic packages is because it actually helps to simplify your service offering. Most detailers make these horrible mistakes when they're creating their prices and their packages, and they have a diamond and a ruby and an emerald and a sapphire and a turquoise package. And number one, that kind of naming convention is crazy because no customer actually even understands it. But secondly, if all we're doing is taking our core offering and stacking on additional services that are not required to accomplish a basic detail, and here's what I mean by that, we're not adding on services like, for example, carpet shampoo, because carpet shampoo is a part of a core detailing service that without it, we probably wouldn't even consider this a true detailing service. So the core services that are necessary to actually accomplish a detail are all included in your core service offering. So what makes the signature package valuable is all of these additional services like access to longer term protection, restoration services, targeted scratch removal in the form of things like cosmetic repair, long-term glass protection. None of those things are necessary to accomplish a basic detail, and not everybody wants to pay for them in order to get the detail. But those are the things that allow us to create a signature package because they're additive to the core service. And so when I say it simplifies what you're offering, what I mean is if a customer chooses the core service offering that you're already offering, they're going to get everything they want because everything required to raise the condition of their car to the highest level of perfection within the realm of possibility is included in that core service offering. So now if someone wants to stray outside of the core flagship offering, they know exactly what they're paying for and exactly what value the additional payment is attached to. It's attached to additional services in the form of longer term protections, cosmetic repair services, long-term ceramic coatings in the form of glass coatings like on the windshield that you saw here, additional services like engine bay details that would normally be isolated as add-ons. All of these things are very concrete pieces of value that they can attach the increased payment to. If you're offering a bunch of ruby, emerald, diamond, sapphire, gold packages with greater or less versions of simple core services like carpet shampoo, you confuse the customer, you set yourself up to disappoint them, you're offering too many services, and people have no idea how to even have a conversation with you about what they need because they can't figure out what it is you're offering. The fourth thing I have to highlight that is very hard to understand until you've dealt with lots of cars and lots of customers is that you have to remember when you're on the phone with someone, what that person is calling you for is an end result. The reason they're calling you talking about detailing in the first place is not because it's convenient for them, it's because they have an end result in their mind that they want accomplished. And the reason I say that is because what the customer wants more than a lower price is the end result they're envisioning in their head. Most detailers think that because they're getting so many price objections that customers really, on the top of their value hierarchy, they value price more than anything else. That is actually not true. They want the end result, and therefore, from your perspective as a professional, it is far more important for you to charge a proper price to be able to deliver the end result than it is for you to lower price, satisfy the surface level objection that's not the real objection, and then disappoint them later with a lesser service that doesn't fit their end vision because you're dealing with the surface level objection that isn't actually what they care about most. That is why it's so important to create these packages the way I'm describing and to approach these situations saying, I have to figure out how to overcome the price objection in the first place, and having the signature package is going to help me do that because now I have this really expensive price anchor that a certain amount of people are just going to want anyways, which means I make more money just by offering it. But now when they're actually viewing things on the website before they even get on a call with me, they're already anchored up here and they're looking at my core offering as the less expensive package rather than the more expensive thing relative to the basic package, because now before they even get on the phone with me, they've got this price anchor that's really expensive, which positions my core flagship service offering as the less expensive option, which is what most detailers are not doing, which means the conversation is easier to have when you actually talk to them. Most of you guys have your basic package and you've created a situation where before the person gets on the phone with you, they actually view your core service offering, which is what you want to sell most of anyways because it's highest margin for you, and anything above that would only add more more margin. Now they're looking at the core service offering as the more expensive thing because you've anchored them with a basic, cheaper package. So what's the moral of this story? You need to have a signature package like I'm describing because number one, you make more money if people choose it. And number two, you make more money if people don't choose it because now you've created an easier conversation with your lead on the phone because the price anchor is happening above your core service offering prices rather than below. All right, guys, hope this was helpful. If you're a beginner and you want a complete list of tools and products I suggest for guys on a budget, go below, grab the Pro Detailing Toolbox resource at wilsonautodetailing.com. And if you're an existing detailing business owner and you want to scale up your business faster, join us at autodetailer.com. You can find the link below as well. And if you got value from this video and you want a longer conversation on how to actually overcome price objections when people give them to you on the phone, which they will almost every time in the beginning stages, click the video on the screen.